Good morning, everyone. Uh, so I'll be starting this week with, discussing something which is very close to my heart, what we really solve every day at Gene Athletics, and this is linked to autoimmune issues, right? And we have been addressing a lot of autoimmune disorders right from the start, right out from when we started Gene Athletics, right? And today I'm going to discuss about gluten and gluten-free diet, right? And all facts about it, all basics, mechanics, and science behind it, so that you guys take the right decision when it comes to your nutrition choices, right? So let me share my screen. Where is my screen? Just a second. Okay, so yes. Okay, here it is. Okay. So, so does gluten-free diet really work? Right? It is the most trendy intervention right now. It's considered to be safe and specifically for people who have autoimmune disorders, right? And we are told to avoid gluten, avoid milk, avoid a lot of these foods, whether we have an autoimmune disorder like celiac disease or we are intolerant to these food substrates like gluten and milk and peanut and eggs and a lot of these things, right? And thing is, let's go back and understand. We primarily Indian, especially North India, have been primary wheat producers, wheat consumers, right? Wheat is our staple, right? And we, since our childhood days, we never had, sensitivity to wheat or intolerance to wheat, right? It is something which has been happening for last few years now, right? So it is not really genetic, right? And again, when you take gluten-free diet, so consider food again. Basics food is a stack of 25,000 plus molecules. Consider it beyond protein, carbs, and fats, right? And for instance, wheat has gluten, wheat has zinc, wheat has a lot of amino acids, wheat has magnesium, a lot of vitamins, right? So essentially, when we are going for a gluten-free diet, we are devoiding ourselves of these essential nutrients, and then we resort to a lot of supplements, and that's what these FMCG companies, all the supplement companies want, right? So you keep on subscribing to these supplements, right? So is it really genetic? It is not, as I discussed. You never had some problem when you were a child, right? During your childhood days, right? Similarly, can oats be really harmful, right? Can oats can also have a gluten sort of reaction? That is also something I'm to discuss a later part of this presentation, right? So let us think. Is it really gluten really bad? No, gluten is not bad for us, right? So it's not an anti-nutrient, right? So what is a gluten? Gluten is actually an specific protein found in a lot of foods like wheat, rye, barley, and a lot of these breads and cookies and a lot of these things which have from really is made of wheat, right? And so if we are intolerant to gluten, if we consume wheat, we consume bread, and we start having digestive issues, bloating, cramping, abdominal pain, this acid discomfort. So probably you don't. Gluten is not bad, but you have a leaky gut, right? And what I mean by leaky gut, let us deep dive into it, right? So we all know that 70% of our immune system is around our gut lining, right? And there are completely microbes living in our gut, right? These microbes interact with our immune system. They communicate and train our immune system to help them differentiate between good things and bad things, right? And the food what we eat, right? So essentially, our body has 25,000 genes. Our microbes have 220 million genes, right? So essentially, our body has a limited ability to metabolize the food we eat, right? So these microbes living everywhere, living in mouth, living in our gut, in our large intestines, in our small intestine, in our skin. They do a lot of these things, especially in the large intestine. These microbes actually metabolize. Again, as I mentioned, food is a sack of 30,000 plus molecules. So these molecules, when we eat food, these molecules hit our you know stomach. It goes to our gut, and these microbes actually metabolize a lot of these chemicals and bioactive molecules and these food substrates, right? So essentially, for microbiome, it is not food. It is like, lot of these molecules and food substrates. So these microbes actually metabolize these food substrates and release certain byproducts. And these byproducts can be good or bad, depending upon which microbes are there, what they are doing, how they are metabolizing this food. So it is all about the function of the microbiome, right? What they produce, right? Whether they're producing a lot of good things like vitamins and minerals, toxins, radius, or like toxins, endotoxin, immunotoxins, and a lot of these things, right? So if they produce bad things like a lot of endotoxins, immunotoxins, neurotoxins, right? So they tell immune cells something is bad, I release something bad, please take care of it, and then immune cells gets into act, right? It starts it start killing all these bad things, and in this process, it does inflammation, right? That is what we call as uh, the the inflammation. And now inflammation is not bad; it is actually good. In certain cases, when you're being attacked, your system is being attacked by certain pathogen viruses, whether inside or outside. But for once, it's okay, right? But when every time you're eating something bad, and your microbiome is converting the various food stuffs into bad stuff, right? Your immune system is always on active, overactive mode, and always doing inflammation, what we call systemic inflammation. Over a period of time, this leads to a situation when this inflammation start doing pores in your gut lining, right? So now this is what we call is leaky gut or intestinal permeability, right? And then this happens, a lot of these foods, food particles and bacteria and all these crosses the gut lining, right? And enters the bloodstream. When it enters the bloodstream, the immune cells, doesn't know what to be done, right? And they can recognize it, so they think something bad is coming up, right? And because all these food particle gets injured. So these bad things are coming up, and they start doing inflammation. You start having bloating, constipation, and all of these things. So essentially, this is one part of the story. The other thing is immune system goes on an overdrive position, and this overdrive position makes them release antibodies, right? And these what we call is IgG antibodies, and these actually, if you see. These antibodies are is what is being tested in a lot of these food intolerances tested. So they test these antibodies. Now these antibodies actually travel to your tissues and tissues and cells, right? And whenever they encounter these food substrates like gluten and lactose, they think it is bad and they start doing inflammation, and this you start having bloating, constipation, and abdominal pain and a lot of these digestive issues. And this is sometimes what happens is this. So this is the way of a story of how you have food intolerances, gluten intolerances, lactose intolerances, right? But what happens is, there are two concepts here. So one is what we call is, molecular mimicry, right? So sometimes these foods activate certain genes which encode for proteins which have a similar molecular structure like that of gluten, right? So when you are taking gluten, so immune cells start attacking gluten in that terms, they actually mistake your own immune cells for gluten, and they start attacking their own cells, and that's why you start having autoimmune issues, right? So just to summarize, whenever you have sort of gluten intolerance, so it means you have a chance, you have a leaky gut, and a lot of these you know gluten rich foods or food particles or the byproducts of the wheat metabolize certain microbes in case of a lot of in case of a lot of inflammation, and or when there's a lot of activity of a lot of bacteria producing pathogens, right, or toxins, right? So these actually enter your bloodstream, and immune cells gets into overactive mode, and they actually it starts mistake because of molecular mimicry, because a lot of these molecular structure of certain of gluten is similar to that of certain proteins which are encoded by certain genes, right, inside our body, and the immune cells immune cells mistake your so again these genes inside ourselves, so probably these they mistake these you know proteins which have a similar molecular molecule to gluten and start attacking their own cells, right? Their own cells, and that's why you have uh, you know autoimmune issues, right? So essentially, if you have a sort of certain proteins like gliadin, which have a or gluten, which have a similar molecular structure that of your own immune cells, right? And these proteins released by certain genes, and you know, these proteins, so they start attacking your own cells, and that's how you have autoimmune issues. Now oats, right? So a lot of people who consume oats do suffer from bloating, cramping, abdominal pain after consuming oats. Right? And you know, we know oats is healthy. It improves our byproduct production. It is a good source of fiber, zinc, magnesium, phosphorus, right? But oat also have a you know, contains gluten called avenine, right? And again, it's called is in common language called oats gluten, right? So certain if certain microbes in your gut can metabolize avenine into bad stuff, right? And this can trigger the inflammation, and this can lead to you know a lot of digestive issues. In case of leaky gut, you know, all these food particles can enter your bloodstream, and you know, and your immune cells start attacking their own brother's own cells, because they again think you know, these molecule structure is similar to that of you know, their own cells, and they think we have to attack avenine, we and that's how they start having their own attacking their own immune cells, right? So that is one aspect why oats can cause inflammation. Oats can cause digestive issues. Second thing is there are certain grains like rye, wheat, even including oats, which can cross react with other foods. So again, so immune cells mistake, you know, consider these foods which actually do not have gluten as you know, a gluten rich food, and you know, again this because of molecular mimicry and you know, similar molecular structure, they start attacking these own foods and considering them these own, you know, so they start attacking your own cells, you know, uh, mistaking, misjudging between gluten and your own cells, so they take these foods, also consider all these foods as gluten, and then they start attacking your own cells, right? And you know, and that's how we would have intolerance for literally everything, you know, when we have an autoimmune issue. Oats, rye, wheat, you know, barley, milk, a lot of these things. So just to summarize here, so that you know, you understand this, that you know, again, oats have a certain gluten. Oats also has gluten, what is called avenine. So if you have a lot of you know, leaky gut situation, this avenine go crosses your bloodstream or your microbiome. There are certain microbes which are converting avenine into bad stuff, it goes into your bloodstream. So again, immune cell gets into act, and you know, start doing inflammation. So that's why you have, you know, they consider avenine like gluten. They think it is bad, and they start producing antibodies. They start doing inflammation, or you know, if these have a molecular structure similar to your own cells, they start attacking your own cells, right? So because they think that this is bad, and you know, they can't differentiate between gluten and their own cells, right? And similarly, you know, oats cross react, oats and other grains cross react with other foods. So immune cells actually mistake other foods also, consider them also as gluten, and then they start attacking, doing releasing antibodies, or start attacking their own cells. You know, unable to differentiate between gluten and their own cells because of molecular structure. Right? And that's how you have these autoimmune issues. You are intolerant to oats as well. Similarly, rye has secalin. Secalin is again another gluten, right? Like gliadin, like pecalin, adenine, all these are gluten, right? Which are found in various foods, wheats, oats, cookies, oatmeal, all have adenine, right? And granola, right? Muesli, all these are adenine. So essentially, if you're thinking them healthy, it is not right. If you have a situation of leaky gut, right? So a few things to take note of. First thing is food intolerance test does not tell you why you have a food intolerance. They just tell you, okay, you have an intolerance for certain foods, right? You would avoid them in order to have an you know, better life. But obviously, you don't know till when you have to avoid them, because this test doesn't tell you till when you have to avoid these foods. Then you can reintroduce these foods, right? That is the first thing. Second thing, gluten is not bad. It is how there's certain biological chemistry going on inside your body. So it is about how your you know, body is metabolizing you know, a lot of these gluten, adenine, and secalin, right? Gliadin, all these gluten, which actually causes trouble, right? So it is not genetic, except maybe 5% of the cases, right? So consider this, it is all leaky gut. So you fix your gut, you you understand your biology, understand what food substrate you should feed your microbe with, and so that you promote a lot of anti-inflammatory activities and suppress pro-inflammatory activities, right? So once your gut is fixed, your food intolerances goes away, right? So essentially, these are the few things you should not take off, right? When you have autoimmune disease, your immune cells mistake your own cells for gluten, and because this gluten passes your gut lining, and immune cells start think this is bad, and they start living antibodies or start attacking gluten, and that's why these antibodies start living in various tissues and cells, and that's why they do inflammation when you consume better than protein and all of these things, right? And I'm just repeating so that you are very clear on this, and then again, in case of molecular mimicry, obviously the immune cells attack their own cells, mistaking it for gluten, right? So if you really want, if you are suffering from gluten intolerance, food intolerance, lactose intolerance, peanut allergy, egg allergy, specifically children, or maybe even as an adult, probably, uh, we have a solution for you. We decode the functions of your microbiome. We can tell you how your microbiome is interacting with various food substrates, with various amino acids, with various proteins, with various, gluten-rich foods, fats, herbs, grains, legumes, everything, and what they have converted this into, and how these byproducts of this metabolism microbiome is actually giving you good things or bad things, right? And is it really causing inflammation, and what can you can actually what is making you develop a disease, or going to, or what is making you going to make you develop a disease, right? So that's it for today. Have a great day ahead. Thanks a lot.